to go live. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Plotlines. I'm your host, Connor. And please, if you like what we're doing here, please like, share, comment, and subscribe. Join our Discord if you want to support, if you want to continue this discussion elsewhere. And today with me to discuss the second, or I guess third episode of Lord of the Rings of Power is Evan from the Middle Earth Mixer and Hope Blayton. Welcome, Evan, for first time on Plotlines.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
No problem. So just what are your first thoughts after watching the episode?
I'm a lot more excited about the show, than I was prior to watching the first two. I thought the first two were, I've said on my podcast, I thought, they were solid 7. They started off really slow, and there was obviously some lore choices that I disagreed with, and you can blame that on what they have the rights to and what they don't. But I thought that the first 2 episodes had a lot of potential, but they started slow. But this one really, I felt like grounded me into a story. I feel excited about where it's going, and obviously we can talk shop on where the lore is correct and where it's not. But I definitely feel like after watching this episode, we have a much more competent show on our hands. Not that it was incompetent before, but I feel much more confident now.
Yeah. Hope, what do you think?
I thought it was much, much better. That they actually, didn't try to do all 4 of the different plot lines. So they were actually able to make some progress in the storyline. A lot more action. It seemed like better acting too. Like the actors kind of got a little more into their roles.
Yeah, no, it's definitely when they decided not to go with literally everyone at once, like everyone's story at once. I got to say it's done much better, I would say. Also, it's very clear to me that they thought of the first 2 episodes as one episode because otherwise, like, it doesn't make sense that they would have each of those individual episodes if, especially with the third episode, given the fact that it's, so much more action packed and developing of the story. It's almost like they did the same amount of development over the course of 2 episodes, or the first 2 episodes in just this third episode. So I think we should start off with, I guess, Galadriel's story, which is kind of also the Númenórean story. But it really starts off with her, coming to on board the ship with Halbrand and meeting this mysterious sailor. So what was your first thoughts about the fact that, like, I don't know, that she was on a Númenórean ship? Because it was pretty obvious the way they dressed, that sort of thing. Evan, what did you think?
Well, I thought the ship looked great. I think that there's a lot of, like, if you go back and watch it, there's a lot of details, kind of, if you look away from the characters and start looking at the side of, like, certain shots, you can see that there's kind of dirt caked on something, or there's cracks in certain things. I thought the ship shots were beautiful. I think the armor looks pretty cool. I think that people were kind of complaining about that when we first kind of saw images of Elendil, but I don't know why. I think it looks good to me. So that kind of struck me. I thought that the armor looked really cool as well.
Yeah, I thought the elves didn't look good in the last episodes, but I thought the men really looked, well, they looked more like you'd think men would be. And I feel like people were just more off put by the way the elves looked. Hope, what do you think?
My first impression of the Númenóreans' armor was it looks like they're wearing oven mitts. But I really noticed the detail and, like, the love that they put into, like, the ship shots and how much how much effort they put into that, which I just loved. So it seems like, to me at least, the thing they've put the most effort into is the weapons and the ships so far.
Yeah,
everything else is passable. But those are
I thought Numenor just looked fantastic, though. I actually thought, like, they also used a lot of real sets.
Mhm.
Just going around Numenor. I mean, you didn't get, you got your grand shots and then you got your little small shots. And I feel like it'd be cool if they could figure out how to sort of mix the two instead of just going back and forth between grand and small. But anyway, so Galadriel and Halbrand are brought to Numenor. They see the amazing city. Halbrand is sort of shocked because he doesn't know about this part of Middle Earth, or I guess Numenor is not exactly Middle Earth, but this is he's kind of surprised that this is made by men because he's a man and he's confused. They should be, better, or this seems more like something elves would create, and that's of course because the Numenorians are descendant of some half-elvens as well as the men who fought along the side of the elves and the Valar in the War of Wrath. And then the Numenorian sort of lore, when they're both of them are brought before the Queen Regent, is a bit kind of a little messed with. I don't know. I haven't decided whether or not I like it or not, but it's kind of interesting that Tar Palantir is still alive. What'd you think about the court of Numenorian's Hope?
Well, I mean, they kind of got to have their token evil queen. It's kind of a staple at this point of fantasy. I will say her costume was the only one that I'd seen that really like impressed me. I liked her costume. She seems to be a talented actress, so I like that. I liked the view of the courtroom, or the throne room, that it had, this grand, there was lots of people there, so it's not like it was this sparse thing that they didn't put a lot of effort into. I actually like got excited when Galadriel actually said, I am Galadriel of the Noldor. I'm like, they actually said it.
Yeah.
But it was great. Although I want to know what Galadriel's chapstick is, that her lips still look beautiful and soft after being lost at sea. I want to know what kind of chapstick she wears, because that stuff's magic.
Is that an elvish staple?
It must be.
Yeah. What do you think, Evan?
So one of the things I definitely had an issue with at first, and obviously the shots were really cool. I mean, we kind of glossed over a little bit how amazing Numenor looked. I loved the aerial shot of the whole city. It was tremendous. And then when they go into the court, there was something I noticed. Miriel kind of leans over to Pharazôn and whispers in his ear, tell me more about this captain that you brought in here. And that kind of immediately for me, and again, I like this episode, but as far as lore goes, I'm going, she should already know who Elendil is. There's no reason for her to be asking that question. So that kind of made me weary. But again, it was a great scene. I didn't really like Halbrand's little Marvel-esque kind of, Galadriel goes on with all of her titles, and Halbrand's just kind of like Halbrand of the Southlands. And it felt very like Captain America-ish. But other than that, I thought it was a good scene. I am wondering why Pharazôn is being referred to as just a counselor and not, the cousin of Miriel as he is. And maybe he is. Maybe counselor is just his title. The cousin of the queen can be a counselor as well.
I thought it was chancellor. Or am I
was it chancellor?
I
I
thought
might have
it
missed
said
that,
chancellor, or they said chancellor, but I could be wrong just as.
No, right. But either way, I want to see them kind of display that this is also a member of the family, not just a random guy in the court.
Well, yeah. You brought up Elendil, but he's also basically family and viewed by the people as such, a level of. I mean, he is the Lord of the Dune, I think, or something like that. I can't. I'm really bad at
But I mean, we're probably both butchering it, but yeah.
Yes, exactly. I think that's a staple of like the Silmarillion stuff. I feel like it's harder to butcher like Lord of the Rings.
Yeah, you kind of just have to take a crack at it. And
yes,
if you fail, you fail.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, he's this lord of the West who is the leader of the other faction in the whole land. And it's kind of interesting to me. Is his father dead? What happened to his father?
That's what I was thinking.
Where did he go? Hope, are you familiar with Elendil's father?
Elendil's father is Arendelle, right?
No, it's Amandil.
Amandil.
He is
or who knows? Could be pronouncing it wrong.
He pulls an Arendelle later, later, but I don't know, has he already pulled it? Is this so? I mean, Verazon should be king if that's the case. There's just a whole lot of stuff that doesn't add up. And Muriel, I never got in the Silmarillion as if she was evil. I thought she was everything was forced upon her.
Yeah, so I think there's two versions of the story. But if you read the Calabath, it's everything is kind of impressed upon her. But I think Tolkien did have a story where she pretty much was okay with everything that was going on.
Yeah. So wait, so which story is that? Do you know, is that Unfinished Tales?
I think it was just in the notes or Unfinished
okay.
Tales. I don't remember which version it was, but yeah, I think there was kind of two versions of it. But I think the official story, at least if you listen to Christopher Tolkien, is that it was against her will.
Yeah.
Essentially a prisoner within her own kingdom.
So are they just trying to make strong, independent women here? Is that kind of their
well, I think, and I'm getting ahead of myself a little bit, but I think she's actually privately a member of the faithful faction and sympathetic towards the elves. But I think she puts on a public face for all of the rebellious men of Numenor. Yeah. Because you remember she goes upstairs I think it's the end of the episode, and she goes and discusses with her father, who we find out is alive and up in the tower.
Yeah, but doesn't she say we have a problem, and the elf Galadriel is a problem?
Well, she said what we have feared has come to pass.
What is it? Is it disdain of the elves, do you think, or is it just like the shock of that?
No, I think that she is privately working with her father, because remember what do we know about Tar Palantir, her father? Palantir means farsighted, so he was able to. I mean, the official prophecy in the Calabath was, once the tree of Nimloth died, then that would end the line of kings. So we have a character who is already able to kind of see into the future. So I guess maybe for the show's storyline, this character has Tar Palantir has been able to foresee Galadriel coming to Numenor at some point. At least that was the implication that I got from that scene.
Well, also it seemed, if I'm thinking of I thought there was a trailer, I could be wrong, where the Palantiri were used, or I could be wrong about that.
Yeah,
but
that was in one of the trailers.
Okay. Well, it seems to me that he could be using one of them. Also, whoever's but all of the, but they don't, it's not useful to have one at this point, right? Because all of them are in Numenor. There aren't any, actually I guess there's one in Hall Arisea, I think, or something like that. One of the
the big one.
Yes. So there's one with the elves of Valinor, or off the shore of Valinor, and then the rest are all at Numenor. So I'm not really sure what they're going to do with that. And so also, just a point on the Muriel's actress, I have seen her in other things, and I've always thought she's pretty good. So she's definitely more of a small time actress. I don't think she's been in anything huge. And I'm pretty sure that's just kind of the way that the Rings of Power have gone with pretty much all their casting, except for, and even Celebrimbor is a smaller actor, but an actor that has been in more notable things.
I actually like him.
Yeah, he's good. Just
I didn't think I was gonna like him because I don't like the way he looks for Celebrimbor, but I do like him.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But anyway, so Galadriel comes before Muriel and Pharazôn, and why does she, like, I don't get why she has to be so like standoffish immediately. She just
Seems very forced.
yeah. No, but
It
like
doesn't have to be that way. In my opinion, it comes off like a little bit like you wouldn't have, almost like Galadriel doesn't have a level of common sense in that moment.
Or courtesy.
Yeah,
or
so that was
in any of the series.
Yeah, she doesn't think anyone is above her. Like that's what it comes off as. It doesn't come off as like, oh, people like, especially, I get what they're trying, or I get sometimes what they're going for. If they're going for like, this woman is above all men or whatever kind of thing, if that's what they want to portray. But then she's talking to another powerful woman and she's still acting the same way. And it's not, it doesn't even seem to have anything to do with her opinion of men or anything. It just seems to be her opinion of anybody that's not herself.
Well, I think what we know from the books is that Galadriel does have a little bit of an ego on her. So I feel like maybe that's the angle that they're really leaning into. So I'll give them the benefit of the doubt for that. But you also like, okay, Galadriel has an ego, but you also you assume that she's got a little bit of common sense. And it just seemed, the scene seemed very forced. Like, it was dumb to go in there and behave like that. But
yeah, no, and then I do like that. I do like that Elendil is then made to like watch over her, basically. Though it's unclear to me why he has so much reign over taking her places, except for maybe the fact that, like we were talking about, her appearing like she's on the side of the anti-elf and Valar faction, but really she's pro. But that wouldn't make sense for the way she acts with Pharazôn, I guess.
well, I think Pharazôn is really sort of the de facto head of in the books they're called the Kingsmen, right? So Pharazôn is kind of the de facto head of this faction, and maybe to please him and his faction, she behaves this way. She pretends that she's different from her father when in really she's like-minded.
I just mean, why would she want information about Elendil from Pharazôn? And like, it seems like she's almost begging the question why she's putting this guy who may or may not be loyal to or maybe against the Kingsmen in such a prominent position, dealing with an elf kind of thing.
I think the point is that privately she actually does want what's best for Numenor, and she does want somebody to keep Galadriel safe, and she knows that Elendil, elf friend, will be able to do that.
Yeah, gotcha. Also, it's interesting, I was thinking that he was originally going to take her to like his city, like the city that he's the lord of, but it seems like Elendil is not really on board with the or he's not fully on board with the elf friends, with the faithful faction. At least there seems to be something that has driven him away from that, and maybe that has more to deal with his father. But it seems like Anarion and Isildur and his daughter. What's the daughter's name? Hope. Do you remember?
I have it written down.
Aarion. They seem to be more interested in that, except for maybe Aarion might be the only one that I'm not really sure. She doesn't seem to be sharing what she's going for, except for that she's closer to Isildur and everything.
I think maybe it's things that they privately believe, but they just haven't really been forced to make a public decision on.
Gotcha. Do you think it seemed to come off that Elendil is not sure where he stands, or is he just frustrated?
No, I don't think so. I mean, him even speaking Quenya, that's a statement in and of itself. The majority of the Numenorians are not going to want to have anything to do with Elvish languages. So him saying to Galadriel, paraphrasing, but it's like he says in Quenya, not everybody here hates you, my lady, something like that.
Yeah.
And they have that little exchange. That within itself, I think, is a statement about where he stands, at least privately.
Okay. Yeah, makes sense. And so basically we learn Galadriel and Elendil hunt down information in the lore hall and basically find what the symbol was of that Sauron has been leaving around. And Hope, what is it?
It's literally a map of the Southlands. I was kind of disappointed they went with that angle.
Yeah, it seems pretty
overly simplistic.
Yes, exactly. Though how many episodes do we have? We have 8 episodes. I almost feel like they don't have time for a hunt or a sort of more in-depth sort of what's the word? Like they don't have time for a mystery that long. Especially since they use 2 episodes to kind of not give us that much information, just to set things up. And now they're almost dropping most of the information on our head. And then it's like, okay, how are they going to use this information? It's sort of weird to me though that it's Elendil and Galadriel that are now set to sort of go out and figure out how to deal with this problem, because it seems the best people to do it. Well, men historically and elves need to go to war with Sauron before all the Numenor stuff happens. But I guess I just don't really see how they're going to make all this stuff coincide all at once. Evan, what do you think about that? Do you think how do you think they're going to?
Well, you certainly have a problem with the lore there, because it's like, okay, so are they just going to essentially turn the War of the Elves and Sauron and the War of the Last Alliance into one war? Because the War of the Elves and Sauron, where Sauron goes and spoiler alert, everybody, he sacks Aragon and chops up Celebrimbor. That happens during the reign of the 11th king of Numenor, I think. So that this would be, well over 1,000 years prior. So if you're going to have Isildur alive for the War of the Elves and Sauron, that within itself is kind of problematic. You'd almost have to combine the 2 wars. So I don't know what they're going to do, but I would certainly like to see, before I write it off.
Yeah.
A lot of people are kind of like that. Like, I don't want to watch the show.
Yeah. I wonder if Amandil is still around and we just don't know. Like, I wonder if there's going to be a thing where it's sort of the older generation that will fight this battle, maybe, and the younger generation will be held back for another season for the War of the Last Alliance, because that would, to me, make more sense that they have all these different generations together. They can't give everyone the same story. They need to have a I don't know. They need a slow build, especially if they're doing more seasons. And I'm pretty sure they're doing more seasons than just one. This season is not
been approved for 5.
Yeah, exactly. This season is not going to end with the War of the Last Alliance. I mean, and I think I think it's best that we should go. Well, actually, let's say let's just talk about Isildur for a bit. He's basically been working with the sailors. He's sort of going through his I guess training or whatever, or that sort of thing with the captains and the sea captains and stuff like that. So he's basically just joining the military, which I don't have a problem with. I still think this family are lords. This family are high.
Should have a little bit more prominence.
Yeah, and the people should. I feel like they should be building up how important the people are, because it's not like these like the king of Gondor and the king of Arnor are like started off from the bottom of the barrel. It's sort of like I don't know. In English history, it probably would be best explained through the Dukes of Norfolk. They were sort of the Earl Marshals of England for the longest time, and they fell in and out of favor all the time. But they were one of the most respected, not necessarily directly coming down from the line of the kings necessarily, but definitely having noble blood that sort of gave them respect no matter what. So I feel like that's sort of what they need to have happen. But I mean, they could also be saying they fell out of favor, but when did they fall out of favor? Because it seems like Queen Muriel, is now sort of in power, sort of, and Tar Palantir was on the throne prior. So when did they fall out? Did they never fall out? And then you just have this random family rising up the ranks, which I think just kind of rubs me the wrong way, at least.
Mhm.
Yeah, I would have felt a lot better if they had Elendil be, if they're not going to have his father in it, then they should at least have Elendil be like a prominent member of court, not some random captain who walks in and then the queen has to essentially ask who he is, because she doesn't know. There should be some context there.
Yeah, I feel like that was bad planning. What do you think, Hope?
Yeah, it didn't make sense how obscure he was. That he's known in his little town and that's about it. It did not make sense to me. It was like, wait, I mean, I'm not exactly up on my lore, but thought he was supposed to be a big shot.
Also,
yes, he definitely is.
Isildur doesn't want to go back. I was worried for a while that Anarion didn't exist. Like for a little bit, I was like, and then when they mentioned him, I'm like, oh, thank you. I was concerned. I was like, did you just replace like Anarion with a girl? And I'm fine with obviously having another kid makes sense, and it can fit in with the lore. She just wasn't ever mentioned. But I thought for a second they were just switching out her for Anarion. But also, isn't Isildur older? Anarion's the younger one, isn't he? Or am I wrong?
So I actually, it's funny that you mentioned that because I was confused by the way that came off today, because I thought Isildur was older, and Isildur is older in the official canon. But I guess in the unfinished tales, Anarion is the older one, I believe.
That's interesting. Okay, so but they don't have I don't get the lore thing, because I didn't think they had access to the unfinished tales.
They don't. That would have just been an independent choice that they made.
How does it become accidental if they're like, you know what I mean? Like, how do you distinguish between accidental and they're using the other lore like that?
I wouldn't say it was accidental. I think that they just decided to make him younger for whatever reason. I guess because they want to focus on him being kind of a like a risk taker, like a young rascal of a kid. That's
rebellious.
That's the story. Yeah, that's the storyline that they want to go for. So they made him the younger brother.
I mean, I guess that can work. It's but yeah. So also, I would have with our Pharazôn, I would have thought he would be younger, just a little younger, not like young, but just on the like more like he looks like Robert Baratheon from Game of Thrones, basically. And I just have kind of, that's an annoying thing to me. I mean, it's not specific about what he looks like, but he doesn't look like this. He doesn't look like he's in his prime of being like a warrior. Like
Yeah, and I'm sympathetic towards that argument too. I think I really love So the guy who's playing him is the perfect picture of what I think our Farazan becomes eventually, right?
That and I agree
Um,
with.
so there's kind of a trade-off there. You get a guy who looks like perfectly for what you imagine our Farazan to be later, but in the beginning, at least at this stage, he should be a little bit more, um, younger, more spry looking.
Yeah, I guess another problem with the whole just all the time jumps and stuff like that. That's kind of the problem with that. But anyway, so that's kind of did I miss anything with the Numenor story? I guess Halbrand. Halbrand is possibly the king, the descendant of the king of the Southlands. Also, is the Southlands its own, like, a completely made up thing? I don't remember. I thought they were originally going with like Rune and stuff like that, or Harad, but now I'm just thinking that this is a completely different group that is independent of that.
So I think that they're referring to the Southlands as like what Mordor was pre what we know it as,
Yeah,
pre it becoming the Blacklands.
but that wasn't that's, or I guess the people aren't really described in the book. I mean, I think there are some people by like one of the lakes or something, if I'm not mistaken.
The Sea of
Norn.
Nirnen. Yeah, the Sea
Yeah,
of Nirnen. And then Nirn. And Nirn is supposed to be this like breadbasket land before it, well, I guess even later it's still kind of a breadbasket because Sauron uses it to feed, his plethora of orcs.
yeah. So it just I originally had thought this was like a group that already existed, but now it's just a group that never that isn't described by Tolkien, I guess. So they can sort of do with it however they please, which I gather
Yeah,
is
you
their
can
plan.
imagine there being that group, but that doesn't really bother me. You can imagine that being that.
No, it doesn't bother me either. That's why I'm just saying that it makes sense that they would pick them because there's nothing really about them.
Right. Yeah.
And in some way that bugs me just a little bit because it'd be nice to, like, I want to watch I want to watch the Lord of the Rings thing to see the characters for the most part from Tolkien's writing come alive. I'm not really that interested in generic group, but I get what they're doing and I at least can appreciate it. But anyways, so Halbrand may be a king in the future. That's kind of what they're sort of gearing us up to. Galadriel is plotting now, I guess, but it's still really unclear what her plan really is. But anyway, so Iran, and so is there anything else about the Numenorian plot so far? Anything that I've forgotten?
Galadriel and Halbrand have a great conversation in the jail. Mm-hmm. Oh, sorry, somebody's pounding music outside my window. Do you know which scene I'm referring to?
I do, but do you want to just elaborate?
Sure. Yeah. So, like you, when I'm watching it, I'm looking for the philosophical underpinnings that are holding up the show. And in that one scene, you have Galadriel, who is talking to Halbrand. And again, I'm paraphrasing it, but she says something like, ours was no chance meeting. And then she talks about the forces that govern the world that men allude to with words, but they don't have the courage to name what it actually is. So stuff like fate and destiny and things like that, the words that men use to describe what's actually governing the world. That's providence. That was the implication there, is that providence is governing this world that we live in. So I really appreciated that scene, because that's what I wanted to see. I know that there's going to be a bunch of stuff wrong with the lore, and I can forgive all that as long as the spirit of what I want to see is there, as long as the spirit of the things that Tolkien believed is there. So I really appreciated that. That's what I was looking for, and that made me really happy to see. And it's very early on, and it's also very blatant. You can't really that's an intentional choice that the writers chose to make there, and I was impressed.
Yeah, I think that's also, sort of putting that together with what Elendil said about the sea made me think of kind of the same thing. Is that he is actually referring to the Valar. I think um, he's referring to Ulmo, and I think Galadriel is referring to the same thing as well. Not just Providence, but sort of more concretely the Valar and their ruling of the world, and especially in the context of them being, because Galadriel's talking about meeting Halbrand in the sea, and that and Ulmo is the king of the sea and the the Valar of the sea. So it basically means to me, and the Valar are basically the angels of Middle Earth. So this sort of it is one of the things, though I had forgotten it. Thank you for bringing it up. I had kind of forgotten about the conversations. But yeah, no, it was one of the sort of better parts. Hope, did that draw you? Did you think that as well?
I liked Halbrand being a super secret ninja badass. I liked the fight scene. I thought it kind of made me chuckle because it was about as absurd as a lot of like Marvel fight scenes, and I loved it.
We did forget about him fighting. So
does that mean he's a ninja, or does that mean he's something else?
Yeah, I don't know.
Like Sauron, for instance.
Well, but
or a Balrog.
But the Arondir stuff, unless Sauron's in multiple places at once, I mean, I guess
I've actually thought that maybe they would try that angle.
That Sauron could bilocate.
I don't think this Adar character is Sauron either.
Oh, really? Okay. Well, we were before the show, Hope and I were discussing how Adar means father. Anyways, I thought it was maybe a reference to sort of the god of Tolkien's world. Basically that they were calling him the god of the world. Obviously, him not being the god of the world, but just because Sauron was notorious for calling himself the Lord of the world, that type of thing. So that made me think a little bit that it might be Sauron, but I guess it's possible that it could be. It'd be interesting if they had another Maiar, sort of another rebellious Maiar, because I assume there are, which I guess would be a Belrog. So I don't know, but yeah,
I think they're actually going dark elf angle.
Oh,
like sort of a hat tip, maybe too, like Maeglin from the Silmarillion.
That definitely could be possible, though. Ironically,
because if you look at the sword, he's got the same exact sword that Galadriel's brother has when they're doing the oath. That's supposed to look like the oath of Feanor, but it's not, because they don't.
That's
do
funny.
It right.
I didn't even think of that as
same sword.
I didn't think of that as being the oath of Feanor, which is kind of funny. I don't know why I didn't think of that, but it didn't remind me of it at all. So I guess that's
good. It shouldn't have, because Finrod wasn't there.
Yeah, exactly.
They had him in that scene. I think it was supposed to kind of like draw up those feelings,
I feel like the first two episodes didn't draw up any feelings for me. I think that's one of the problems that I had with the first two episodes. But yeah, no. So okay, that makes sense that they would go dark elf, at least in the sense that if I was doing Tolkien and I just wanted to have like a bunch of different types of characters all over the place, and like if I was thinking in the realms of like taking action figures and just throwing them at each other, I'd be like, I need a good elf, I need a dark elf, I need a Balrog, I need Sauron, I need Tar Palantir can't be dead, he's alive, that type of thing. Like we need all the players around, even if it doesn't necessarily make sense, but we need to see them in action. So this is how we're going to do it. I feel like that's kind of what they're going for.
Yeah, I'm very curious to see where this Balrog comes into play, and if it occupies another form before becoming the monstrosity that we see in the trailer.
It could. I mean, it would be really interesting if Halbrand was some evil character. I mean, I guess it would be a better storyline, I think.
I think Nazgul for sure. I think that's what the future looks like for him.
Yeah, he definitely I think will become one of the 9.
Yeah, because it's sorry, go ahead.
No, go.
Oh, I was just going to say, I think it would be, I think what gets lost on people a lot, and that's mostly because Tolkien really didn't fill us in much about their backstories. And that was intentional, of course. Use your imagination about what these men were like when they were alive. But I would have to assume for at least most of them that they had good intentions when they originally took these things from Sauron. You know, we don't have to assume that they were all what we would consider evil, at least in our eyes. You know, I'm sure they all had families and they all had people that they cared about, and maybe they were even good natured. And there's a sense of tragedy in that and a sense of loss. And I think that it would be a really good thing for the show to do, to have this person that we all fall in love with and then have them take one of the 9 with good intentions.
Just hopefully Galadriel doesn't fall in love with him.
Yeah,
there's such weird sexual tension between her and Elendil and her and Halbrand, and it bugged me every time they were on screen.
Is that a love triangle now?
I don't know. It bothered me so much. It was just like, just stop, please. Enough with the weird sexual
we don't
tension.
need this.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're all like, I mean, they don't really say who. Do they ever talk about Elendil's wife? He has kids. He's definitely married. I mean, she could be dead, but still, man, you know.
I don't think she was explicitly mentioned.
Yeah,
in the episode, at least. So
and then Galadriel is married, but we never. But who knows where her husband
in the series,
tell me, where is Celeborn? I'd much like to speak with him.
Yes, exactly. Anyways, but we really need to move on, I think, to keep with time. But the Numenorians definitely are the sort of most interesting, I think, group to watch right now. I would have thought last episode I would have said it was the dwarves and Elrond and Celebrimbor, but now we don't get any of that this episode, which is probably going to be the next episode. Unless they stick with the same plot, but I don't know how they're going to divvy that up. That's going to be if I was a writer of the show, I would get concerned about divvying all of this stuff up, and especially with people's enjoyment. If they're enjoying one of these storylines, it's going to be hard to keep everyone happy when you're like, okay, this storyline, this episode, this storyline, next episode, like. Everyone's just going to be kind of tired of it, or wait till a couple episodes and then watch them all together or something. I feel like that could be a concern, but maybe Amazon's not worried about that. But anyway, so the Harfoots were they were the worst part of this episode. I think they were just the most boring part of this episode. Also the kind of creepy, and just so Hope, do you want to talk about the Harfoots? I feel like you have stuff to say about them.
Well, the whole weird costume and dance when they first introduced the Harfoot storyline in the episode, that nobody goes off the trail and nobody walks alone, as they're in their little bird and wolf costumes and all chanting and marching. It was just weird. Kind of weirded me out, although the costumes were pretty cool. But the interactions between Poppy and Nori just seemed too adversarial to me. Like, they're supposed to be best friends, right?
And they kind of were in the previous episodes.
Yeah, but in this one, Poppy's like, I'm not helping you. You've done enough. I'm not helping you. You're not dragging me into this. It's like, that's not what a friend does. And also just that the Harfoots just make a habit of just, they got stuck in the snow. Bye-bye.
Yeah, the sort of sacrificial culture of the Harfoots. It doesn't scream. I mean, I've said this before, but hobbits are supposed to be sort of English, sort of a
and very,
representative.
very loyal to their friends.
Yeah, so it just seems kind of contrary. They just seem to need a an argument. They need a problem for them to deal with, because basically the only thing they succeed in doing is getting on the road, and the stranger assists them, and he's learned how to say friend in Hobbit language.
Yeah.
I mean,
I did like how he's like stumbling and tripping over everything.
Yeah.
That kind of.
Evan, is there anything that really pushed the plot forward with the Harfoots? Because it seemed like a very small part of this episode.
I mean, really what that served to do is to get them to a point where the rest of the Harfoots know about this stranger that's with them. So now he's no longer in the dark, right? I really hope that the stranger isn't Gandalf, because that's going to be a huge problem for me. One thing I do want to say that I did like about the Harfoot scenes, and going into this, I didn't want Harfoots to be in the show at all, because we all know they don't come until the third age, right? But there have been a couple scenes that I have liked, that I've found charming. There was one where Nori is talking to her stepmother, right? And it's when she gets in trouble for housing the stranger. And she looks at her and she says something like, "Oh, what do you think the stars reached out and touched you?" or something. Because she's breaking the rules in order to save this mysterious stranger that she thinks is some providential moment that's happening. And the whole point of that scene is to say, like, yes, actually, something from the stars really did reach out and touch her. And
literally,
she is part of some kind of grand thing that's happening. So again, another one of those moments where we're seeing providence happening that I really appreciated, because that's the stuff that I'm looking for. This is what Tolkien believed in, and I want to see it expressed in a show. I don't want to see them shy away from it. I want them to lean into it. And I've gotten plenty in the past 2 episodes of stuff like that. So I've been pleasantly surprised there. I don't understand why, I've seen people on Twitter say that there isn't enough connection with this idea of hard moral lines and right and wrong. And, not that I'm like out defending the show or anything. It's still really early on, but I think that we have plenty to, I'm a Christian. I think I have plenty to work off of for stuff to be happy about, as far as like things they've said.
Yeah, I think I've been pleasantly surprised too. And I don't think this show deserves as much hate as I thought it was going to deserve, if that makes sense.
Yeah, makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. And I think there's some people, and I understand this argument, that they just don't want to see this show. They didn't want the show to happen. And I get that, because it seems to me that it would have been better set up a different way. But if you're going to just measure the show based on the show, I think it's a pretty okay adaptation. Not a great one, but just kind of, it's not like it seems better story wise, or maybe equal story wise to The Hobbit. It's probably about like the Peter Jackson Hobbit movies.
Yeah.
It's a little less like lore accurate, but that's about the only difference. But that's because there's just so much more lore that they would have to follow and figure out, that I don't even know. Unless it's one person dealing with it, because like that's the problem. I think they have so many writers and stuff like that dealing with the show, that they don't have as easy time having one vision about it.
Yeah, I think to put it in context, The Hobbit is an entire book.
Mhm.
And for even if you did have the rights to the Silmarillion, we all wanted them to have the rights to the Silmarillion, which I wish they did, because the Akalabaith is amazing.
Mhm.
That's the chapter on the fall of Numenor. I would have wanted them to have that. But even if you have the Akalabaith plus the appendices, the Akalabaith is still just one chapter in the Silmarillion. There's still a lot more that you need to kind of fill the gaps with.
Yeah, indeed. So is there anything about the Harfoots left to be said? I feel like it was a pretty short storyline. Okay. Now, Arondir is captured by the orcs. It was pretty clear that that was happening in the last episode, and I'm mixed actually. I don't always enjoy captured storylines, but I get that they serve a purpose. So, insofar as this was well done, I enjoyed it. I'm always like, we're get it. They're gonna get captured, and then they're gonna escape or whatever, or something like that. Or in some stories, they become like brainwashed or something, that type of thing. But it did make me think back to a lot of the stories in the Silmarillion where the orcs have thralls, and this was very much in that vein. And I really enjoyed it. They did keep to the fact that orcs don't like light and stuff like that. I thought that was really well done. And I thought the fact that people or elves died was probably the best part of this. Just seeing the fact that our characters can be imperiled was kind of the best part, and maybe the whole point of these scenes. Yeah. So I know you liked the Arondir story previously.
I do.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
what was your thoughts about how it the direction it took?
I thought that the opening scene where he's getting first dragged through and it's showing like the light coming through, I thought that the sound and light design was superb for being like, this is a place you don't want to be. There's a lot of hopelessness. I thought that was absolutely superb. The whole apologizing to the tree thing before starting to cut it down was I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, to me it's like elves do make things out of like wood.
Yeah.
Like I can't imagine they've never made things out of wood. So it's not like they're like I feel like they're trying to harken back to Yavanna and Aule in some sense about not wanting the trees to get cut down and stuff like that.
But I
feel
mean,
like
one of the trees, one of the elves literally died because the Watch Warden didn't want to cut the tree down.
Yeah, I feel like it was just overemphasized their relationship with trees, insofar as they have to make things. They do make things. I imagine they use wood. So they would have had to kill trees. I get the point more is that they shouldn't just unnecessarily destroy trees. And I guess maybe the argument could be made that, okay, they didn't want to cut down this tree because it is unnecessary. And then the elves were trying to say that, okay, we can do this without doing it. And I get that point. But yes, when it comes to like the option are some people are going to die and you're going to kill and you're going to destroy this tree. I don't think they would have as much remorse in that situation. Evan, what'd you think?
Yeah, I see what they were trying to do. But I'm like you. I agree. Like the elves they have to make things out of wood. I think it was odd to be so hung up on like that particular tree in that particular moment, because it was pretty much life or death. But I thought it was fine. They're just trying to show that the elves have a different level of reverence for living things.
Yeah. They have a greater interest in nature. But anyway, so there's this whole, they're trying to figure out a way to escape, at least for somebody to be able to escape after one of the elves gets killed for them not wanting to take down this tree, which really, again, I just thought that was an important moment in the show for people to die. And I wasn't expecting 2 of the elves to die right away. And it just kind of interests me, though, that Arondir is the only one that survived so far, just insofar as who is he going to talk to now? Unless
Plot armor.
well, like I don't actually see it as much as plot armor yet, insofar as I actually think they, like, if it's a reasonable thing what they're doing after, it will make sense for why he wasn't killed. But yes, it could, depending on the next part of his story. He's being taken before their boss. Now, why is he being taken before their boss? I don't know. But if it's really stupid, then yes, it's plot armor, and But
I completely agree with you on that.
Yeah, if there's a legitimate reason, well, then it's fine. I understand. So,
because I was thinking in that scene, like, for what reason did the orcs grab him and go take him to Adar? Like, they already killed the most important guy in that group,
Yeah.
And they killed him pretty thoughtlessly. They just kind of filled him up with arrows when he climbed out of the hole. So what made them, let the last guy survive? I didn't really get that. And it'd be one thing if this Adar character was standing right there, and said, hold on, I want to talk to this guy. But they didn't. They just stopped for no reason. Yeah. So I kind of thought about that too. They better reward us with some kind of reason for why he let him live.
Yeah. It definitely needs to be a good reason. It's interesting. A lot of the stuff I kind of forgot about during the show, about the other characters that we didn't get to see. I mean, I remembered Elrond and Celebrimbor and that sort of thing, but I kind of forgot about Orondir's side characters kind of thing. And it really does make sense that they're turning, this land into Mordor, and that will be, I think, kind of interesting. Which,
I'll say, that we don't have a whole lot of lore context, at least for the people in Mordor and what they may have experienced during that time period. And I think that that's something I actually like. I want to see kind of an imagination of the, chaotic destruction that takes place there for Sauron to be able to make this essentially a land fortress out of Mordor. So that'll be fun.
Yeah. I mean, as long I enjoy watching creativity, it's just they need to have good creativity, and they're showing decent levels of creativity at this point. But I'm worried about when they're, I'm worried how they're going to deliver on all the promises they've made, and just how they're going to get from one place to another. And if they can do that well, then the show will probably be pretty good.
I just want to know why the warg looked like a rabid Chinese crested dog.
I don't know what that looks like.
I have mixed feelings about the warg. I think
the warg was so bad. I'll text you a picture of a Chinese crested, and you will instantly be like, "Yes."
Okay.
I looked at it. I'm just like, okay, it looks like a giant mutant Chinese cresty.
You'll have to tweet that one out. I'd like to see
Hope tweet that. You should tweet that out. But
well, I'm private, so Evan won't be able to see it anyway.
Well, Evan can follow you, Hope.
Yeah, Evan, follow me.
Anyways, is there anything really about this scene or about this storyline? Anything else? Because I feel like it was pretty straightforward.
Pretty straightforward. I liked it.
Yeah, it was enjoyable. It was a good sort of side. I feel like of the sort of storylines, I am very much interested in the Numenorians, and Galadriel. I really can't get over her accent. I think it's Welsh, but I just don't. It doesn't seem to fit very well in the situation.
Tolkien loved Welsh.
Okay. Someone said it looked like a pug. Nikki Cunningham said it looked like a pug.
It was
Yeah, a little bit.
It was not
Yeah.
great.
So they need to work on the vlogs. And please, all of you guys listening, we have like 12 people listening. Please hit the like button. And this is a weekly show, so come back next week to hear more. I think that sort of covers all the whole episode. Any final thoughts about just this episode and where we're going? Evan, what do you think?
Like I said before, this episode was actually entertaining. Like before, I was like, kind of reserving judgment. I was saying like, yeah, it's slow, but they need to build the plot. But this, I'm entertained, whether this is a show that follows the lore or not. This episode, taking it for what it was an entertaining product to watch. So I was happy about that.
Yeah. It's definitely got me hooked till the end of the season at this point, if they continue with the level of effort they put into this episode.
Yeah. Well,
and Connor, do you upload all these? Sorry.
Well, this is live, so
right. But does it stay like uploaded?
Yeah, it stays
I don't know how it works.
Yeah, it stays uploaded, and then I also have podcasts on like Anchor and Spotify and stuff like that. So it will be up for everyone to see afterwards. But yeah, so Evan is from the Middle Earth Mixer. He has a podcast. I have a link in the description for you guys to go find him and listen to him. I will be on the game show on Avoiding Babylon in half an hour. So check that out for all of you. Hope is also from Avoiding Babylon, though she won't be on the game show tonight.
I'll get kicked off the computer.
Yes, she'll be removed by Rob. So yeah, Evan, thank you for being on the episode. I
had a great time. Thanks for having me.
Yeah.
Hope, it was nice to meet you.
Yeah, very nice to meet you as well.
Yeah, you can come back anytime you want for the episodes and stuff like that.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
But thank you all for listening. Please like, share, comment, and subscribe, and have a wonderful evening. Have a great week as well. A great weekend. Bye, everyone.
Bye.